Hey everybody, welcome to January 2026. I've got a lot of exciting authors to bring to you this year, starting with this panel. Without any further delay, let me introduce this episode. If your book launch is built entirely around posting on social media, you're not alone, but it may not get you the results you're hoping for. New authors often rely on social platforms for visibility, expecting that a few well-crafted posts will lead to reviews, sales, or business leads. But without an email list, a networking strategy, or speaking opportunities to support the launch, social media alone usually falls flat. Visibility without conversion does not move the needle. And that's why I teach authors to launch with a strategy. I help entrepreneurs build a personalized plan that leverages launch teams, targeted outreach, and relationship driven visibility to generate over 50 Amazon reviews and create a clear path from the book to the business. If you're ready to move beyond passive posting into intentional connection, let's talk. Schedule a complimentary 30-minute book launch brainstorming session at booklaunchbrainstorm.com and learn how to build a review driven launch that delivers real business results. And now I'm excited to introduce you to today's panel. First, we have David Newman, who wrote Market Eminence 22 Strategies to Build a Bold Personal Brand, Become a Business Celebrity, and Drive Unstoppable Growth, a high impact guide that empowers experts, consultants, and coaches to step into the spotlight, own their authority, and attract opportunities with intention and confidence. Leila Kubesch wrote Techno to Tech Pro, a practical guide to digital visibility without losing your humanity, a thoughtful and practical resource for professionals, excuse me, who want to build a strong online presence without sacrificing authenticity, connection, or mental well-being. And Susan Friedmann wrote Riches in Niches, How to Make It Big in a Small Market, a foundational guide for entrepreneurs and authors who want to stop competing in crowded spaces and instead build authority, visibility, and revenue by owning a clearly defined niche. Please join me in welcoming David, Leila, and Susan. David, let me kick things off with you. Welcome to the show. And I'd love to hear more about who you had in mind for this amazing book. I got a chance to interview you in full about this, but maybe folks missed that. So who did you have in mind when you were writing this book?
Sure. So, in addition to the consultants, coaches, and experts that you mentioned, Market Eminence is also for small to mid market CEOs and founders, anyone with something to say or something to sell who's in the business of expertise.
I love it. Clear, concise, compelling. Perfect. Nothing less than I expect from you, David. Leila, who did you have in mind when you were writing your book?
I wrote this book for the mission driven individuals, like the educators, the entrepreneurs, those who have big ideas. They are very rich in spirit, but not so much in their pockets.
Mm. There's a theme going on. I feel like this has always happened, Susan, where I invite people to come on the show based on your availability, and then there's an overlap somehow in the work that you're doing. So, Susan, who did you have in mind for your book?
So for the Riches and Niches, my audience was primarily entrepreneurs and primarily nonfiction authors who were looking to find their little corner of the world where they can become an expert in their field.
And for among you, some of you, this is book number nteenth. Leila, is this your first book? Have you been?
Yes.
This is your first book. Okay, so Leila, I'm going to ask this question to you because it might have been a while ago that it was a first book for other guests. So there's just something about the first book. You got to get past these mental voices, the like things telling you, or people telling you, maybe like external voices telling you, why are you? Who are you to write a book? Like, did you battle with that? How did you overcome that? How did this become an actual thing that you can hold in your hand? I mean, that's
I
phenomenal. I think
actually
you forget.
Yes, I actually closed the computer several times. I told myself, when I did my TED talk, I told myself I have greater chance of being hit by lightning than making it. I ended up winning first place. But I had to, for this book, I had to be intentional about reminding myself not the why, but the who I'm doing it for. So I have a
Mm,
specific people in mind, like the interns. I'm an executive director for a not-for-profit, and I work with interns And it amazes me how young people, I always think that everybody younger than me should be much better in technology. Like I'm this very outdated, I should be this dinosaur. But thinking about them, having a person in mind is what really helped me walk away less from the computer.
That's such a great answer because I think a lot of authors, the first time, and Susan, tell me if you've experienced this, the first book's about them, not about their readers. They get a little stuck in their head about like, I really want to write this book. This is the book I want to write. This is my knowledge that I want to impart on the world. Susan, like how do you see that? Because you have, beyond being an author, you have experience with a lot of authors. So how does that approach feel like for you for first-time authors?
Yeah, so first-time authors, when they come to me, you're right, because they've poured so much into it. This is their baby, and that first time is just miraculous. I've got two questions that I ask when I speak to authors for the first time. Who is your book for, and what do you want it to do for you? So they have to really do a double take on because nobody's ever asked them that before. And more often than not, and I know you've heard it, and I'm sure David and maybe even Leila too, people come to me and they say, well, my book is for everyone. I was like, my message is universal. And I'm like, that's great. However, not even Procter & Gamble and some of the national companies even try and market to everyone. So why you should think about that? No, it's too hard. Let's focus. Let's look at a niche market where you can become an expert in your field and lead the pack rather than fight with everybody else in the marketplace.
I love that. When I have my free 30-minute brainstorming call, I ask them kind of where is the book in the process of being created to get an understanding of the timeline. And they have already probably excitedly told me about the book without me even asking, like they're just bubbling over. And then I do the gotcha question, which is not meant to be a gotcha question, which is your second question, basically like, how does this book fit in with your business? And like, what's the connection between the two? I'm so many people don't have that figured out. David, you are a person who knows a ton about marketing and sales. You have multiple books. What was different about this book that you were writing? Because it feels like you had a little bit of a shift in intention and audience in how you rolled it out. So what have you learned maybe from prior ones that you can say you were thinking differently about the approach for this one?
I like to think that I'm getting smarter with each book and with each book launch. So this one was different, but just getting back to what Leila and Susan was saying, and Robbie, you're in the same boat here. Not only is the first book have its own set of obstacles, but the second book, the third book, the fourth book. So what I struggled with is sort of like bad sequel syndrome. So you write one book and then you're sort of, let's say the first book does really well. And then you're thinking, well, it's beginner's luck. If I write a second book, there is no way it's going to get this level of critical acclaim. No way it's going to hit the charts the way the first book did. No way it's going to get the number of reviews that it did. And so that itself can be paralyzing. So this is my fourth book. Market Eminence is my fourth book. And for so many years, because my last book came out in 2023. So for the last 3 years, I was telling myself and I was telling others, that's it. I'm done. Those are the only 3 things I know about, because I didn't want to push my luck. And so this book is sort of a distillation and a compilation of everything that I know and teach and preach about marketing, positioning, differentiation, really, some overlap with Susan, obviously, with niching, but just going deeper into, what are you really about, and the overlap between personal branding and market demand, and how your personal brand can grow your company brand. And so I was comforted that sequel syndrome went away a little bit when I realized that this is a completely different kind of book. And God forbid it was a flop, and it was totally very far from a flop. It was the book that did the best so far, knock wood. But if I had failed at it, I'd be like, well, it's a totally different animal. It's not really, doesn't really impact the other 3 books. It was an experiment. It didn't work. Oh, well, wash my hands of it and move on.
I appreciate having your perspective, David, because I do focus a lot on helping first-time authors get past the jitters, and actually produce a quality book that will help them move forward in their dreams, their career, their business, whatever they're focused on. But this idea of the angst that you might have if the first book goes well, how do you continue to live in your own legacy, at least in your own mind, if nothing else, and keep finding something new to say and a new audience or expanded audience to reach. Because Susan, I agree, we're not for everyone, but often a book that we focus on one demographic, other demographics are drawn to it that maybe we didn't ever see as part of our world. And so we decided to write a book for that new demographic in order to more directly pull them in, because now we do say, I have something, to speak to you about more directly. I want to acknowledge you. But yeah, it could be really quirky, and it's almost like, well, I've done really well. Why would I disrupt my success by having a flop? And it is so much work. Susan, you work with authors to help them through the whole process. I'm actually, if you could just give us a little soup to nuts about what you do. But there are milestones where I feel like an author has to kind of like re-energize to keep going. So there's like, I guess it's almost like points where they might exit. It's what Leila was mentioning earlier. And Leila, I want to know, after she shares this, whether you you personally react to her milestone. So Susan, where is it most likely that authors are going to get derailed in this process between, I think I have a book, to physically having a book and the book doing well for them?
So one of the things, and I'm going to just go back a little bit with this, is that I want the author to feel totally in love, 110, 120% in love with their book. And it starts with the cover, Robbie. They have to really love that cover, because if there is anything wrong with that cover, just anything, it's like, in a marriage, if your partner doesn't put the cap on the toothpaste, and you can put up with it for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness. So your book cover, even the slightest little thing, get it changed. Because I've seen authors who've come to me and said, I don't like my cover, I'm embarrassed by it, therefore I don't sell it. So that's the last thing I want for an author. So I really stress, it's the packaging. They've got to feel good about this. It's a gift if they're going to present it to their audience. So that's going back. In terms of what I do with the authors, is they come to me with a manuscript, either edited, unedited. If they need editing, we've got editors. If they need graphic design, we've got graphic design. However, what my passion, my personal passion, is to look at how can they really market this book, build awareness, authority in their niche market. We have to find their niche market, and then rise and be able to sell this book, hopefully in bulk. That's the idea. How can they sell this book in bulk?
So Susan, if they have a manuscript and they still have to figure out a publishing path, is that sometimes a moment where they stall because they've written something, but they don't quite know who's going to publish it or how it's going to come to life?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
That is definitely.
And now they found someone like you, and they're focusing on the publication date. That's their deadline. That's their deadline. And they cross it and they think they're done. Not if they work with you. You've probably been coaching them the whole time to realize that the race goes far beyond the deadline. But that's another exit where I think people can stall. Leila, did any of this resonate with you around, like, how did you figure out, were you around other authors? Like, how did you find a pathway forward once you decided you were committed to writing for this audience you had in mind?
I wasn't around other authors, but I realized that I was doing too many different things. Last year I challenged myself to speak in all 50 states, and I was part of many different Toastmasters and achieved that. And at some point I says, I have that loyalty, that commitment, and I need to stop in order to make this happen. And I even had to talk to my family. A few years ago, I went to a conference in Columbus, Ohio, and they talked about the impact of having foil on dementia. So I come home and I throw away all the foil, and I didn't share my goal. And my husband went and bought 8 packs of them, and I threw everything I had in the house. And he had a heart, and he goes, "I'm sure you use this for your classroom. Here's I got you. Make sure you don't run out. You must have used this for a school project." So I learned from that experience is that even when you have a goal and you have an idea, you need to share it with everyone. So I share this with all of my family so that they can allow me to have the time, so that I would, if I'm staying working until, I'm not a morning person. My ideas, early morning, I can't even think in English. So like I am toast, I need to realize where I am. So I work better at night, and I may stay until 4:45 p.m. So I needed to, first of all, safeguard the time. And I painted my walls this kind of paint where you can use a dry erase marker. So I'd have all these everything, and climb on these little ladder, and I write things. I'm also a visual learner. So this is a way for me to learn what kind of a learner, what kind of person I am. And I really had to think about my audience. Otherwise, like Susan said, my book is for everyone. And I says, no, my book is not for everyone. My book is for me the way I used to be. That person who had 1 follower on LinkedIn for an entire year. And I was so embarrassed, and I wanted to delete the account. And so I had to think about who else was like me. And if I lost track, I was writing it for me. Like I said, my old me, how I was. That's why the title Tech No to Tech Bro. And even when I came to the title, the designer felt like my book, I looked on Canva and I found another person to put behind. So on the page, the cover, if you look closely, there's a picture of an image of a person. So I put another person, and I had to think about it. And it was a struggle to put my person. So even though I'm writing a book about visibility, it's this constant struggle. And even if I fixed it with myself, it doesn't go away. You have to be very mindful, and had to think about what are the genius things that I have done to succeed, to be able to help educators and help other person, how I came up with this creativity. And that what really helped me stay on task and stay on track.
I'm going to pull out a few things from what you said, Leila, that I think could really resonate with the listeners, and I don't want them to miss it. One is that you went public to your sort of inner circle about your goals and the plans that you were making, and that you needed their support, and you created an environment that you could experiment with how to do that best for you. I still know authors that tell me, they'll get on a call with me and say, I've been working on this book for 2 years. No one knows about it. And I'm like, what do you mean no one knows? Like, what? So I think, like, stop writing in secret, everyone. Like, Leila, I love what you did. Like, getting people to, they may not understand it. Like, they may not even understand what you're trying to do. Like with the tinfoil, they may not understand it, but like you saying you have a purpose behind it, and you're going to experiment, and you're going to find your way forward. And that you were writing for your younger self, because that's true for, I think, for a lot of authors. And what I think is interesting is there's a way in which there's followers, there are people who could better relate to you than to David, and when it comes to marketing, because David's been doing this for a long time, and so he has experienced a lot. So he seems almost like, I could never get to that point. But Leila, you're like, listen, I'm just like a few chapters ahead of you, but I figured some things out and I want to share it with you, and come on with me. And like, it's just a different invitation. And I think some people feel like they're not ready to write a book because they haven't mastered something for 40 years, and they aren't the old wide wizard person. Not that you are, David. I'm not drawing that comparison. Okay. I love David so much. So I'm just so glad that you like got yourself out of your own way and let the message come. David, jump in here. I want to hear about metrics for success. For each of your books, you probably had a slightly different focus, but what makes you think a book is successful, and like, you know, maybe it changes from when you start writing it to then it exists in the world, and even a year or two later, maybe it shifts a little bit. But what did you initially think for your books, and what has sort of evolved as you became an author who has multiple books?
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I hate to say this, but with my first book, which was in 2013, I was really hell-bent on Amazon bestseller. The other lists I knew were out of reach because I write niche books, and a niche book, generally speaking, will never make any of the big bestseller lists. There are exceptions, of course. So I wanted to be number one in my category, get on number one, stay on number one, stay in the top 10. I was so hell-bent. And of course, let's preface all of this that Leila has written a fantastic, amazing book. Susan has written a fantastic, amazing book, and she helps other people write fantastic, amazing books. Robbie, all of your books are fantastic, amazing, valuable, deep, referral-worthy, buzzworthy, review-worthy. You cannot get any of these results with a crappy book, just for the record. So,
it's a really good thing to point out.
I mean, we have to say that. We have to say that because everyone is selling this, you know, write your book in a weekend, you know, write your book with AI, and that is not the path forward. But that's a whole separate live stream. So that's a separate show. So I was really excited about getting on the top tier of all of my Amazon categories back in 2013. And I did that multiple times, and I did that multiple times for multiple weeks. And then multiple weeks became multiple months, and multiple months became multiple years. So the proudest accomplishment, the proudest metric I have from my first book, the Do It Marketing book, is it stayed in the top 20 in its main category, and the top 20,000 on Amazon, if you know what that means. And that's of all books, no category, but the top 20,000 out of all 8 million books sold on Amazon. For 39 months straight. 39 months. That is 3 years and 3 months at the top of the charts. Every single day I woke up saying, what can I do to promote the book? What can I do to talk about the book? What can I do to share the book? What can I do to be interviewed about the book? And that's what kept that momentum going for 2 years and 3 months. The subsequent books, including this one, I got smart. And I realized, partly, Robbie, through your putting the final nail in the coffin, Amazon rankings are nice, but they don't sell books and they don't grow your business. What sells books and what grows your business? Big surprise, my friends, reviews. Reviews, 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 and reviews. Reviews is what tells the Amazon recommendation engine that your book is attention worthy and recommendation worthy. It tells Amazon that your book is, you know, in motion, in action. And it's not just, hey, let's get 20 reviews from our friends and family. I know, Robbie, you do a great job of blowing out that myth. It is every single day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. There are new, fresh reviews being posted about your book, saying hopefully nice things. So 4-star reviews, 5-star reviews. The other thing now with this whole review culture, if you did write a flimsy, goofy, subpar book, the reviewers will tell you. The reviewers will totally say, hey, kids, the emperor has no clothes. This book's marketing is a lot better than what is in these pages. So for me, the new metric is reviews, and you and your entire launch strategy and launch team were so incredibly instrumental in helping the Market Eminence book just blow out of the gates. I mean, it was like a rocket ship launch, and still early days. The book hasn't even technically launched yet for another week.
I know. I want to talk about your results in a moment, but let's just go back and talk about the different mindset, because I think your mindset from 2013 is where most first-time authors today even start, unless they have talked to me.
That's right.
Or talked not just to me, but Susan's part of my BizBook Pub Hub referral network, which is a curated directory of experts who support entrepreneurs through their author journey, wherever they are in their author journey, from writing to marketing and beyond. And I've heard, my favorite feedback was someone who said that they used to sell. I don't remember who this was now, but they used to sell some kind of bestseller package, and someone reached out and then they said, I don't offer that. Go talk to Robbie. And that, to me, it's like having the service providers, the experts, realize that we were part of the problem. Like, and I know this because the whole piece about bestseller package, when I would ask these folks, often hybrid publishers, why do you offer this? They would say, because authors ask for it. And we are all experts, right? Everyone here on this panel. And I can't think of another scenario where the strategy was set by the client, not the expert. Like it's just really backwards. It's falsely appeasing people and humoring them as opposed to telling them the harsh truth. Listen, this is going to be a little more effort, but it'll be better for you in the long run. So David, you got that message loud and clear. And drum roll, please. You're one written review away from 200. You have 202 ratings. Those are the 1 through 5 stars. So this is something that people don't realize. You don't have to buy a book or write anything to leave a 1 through 5 star rating, which is why it does not count. It doesn't have as much meaning to the Amazon search results algorithm or recommendations algorithm as the written reviews. And you have 199 people out of 202 took the time to leave a review. And it's possible even that those last 3 are still like in process, right? We never know why they haven't shown up. So kudos to you. That's a tremendous amount of people. How many people, do you recall how many people were on your launch team initially?
Through 375.
Wow.
So this also is why this is such an amazing metric. I tell people a third is what you should expect, 50% if it's a smaller list. Like if you have 80 people, I think you can get 40, right? If you have 300 people, I think 150 is still kind of your cap. And so here's David Newman. Now, David, one of the things you talked about was the importance of writing a really good book. And I think an unspoken rule about success like this is that you have an engaged audience before you start. And I don't mean an engaged email list, because not everyone has a big email list. But if you're a person who's been like hiding in the shadows, not showing up for other people, just kind of small in your world, these results won't happen. I don't even know if you would be able to name 300 plus people to invite to be on your launch team. So I think your success actually is more symbolic to who you are and how you've shown up since 2013, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. And the other thing, I'll just throw this in because sometimes authors that I send to Susan, authors that I send to you, Robbie, the big complaint is, well, but I don't have a huge email list. And I say, when you're writing a book, and I think this is true for all 3 of us, all 4 of us, when you're writing a book, this is the time to cash in your chips. All the people who like you, who you've helped directly or indirectly, who follow your writing, who follow your blog, who follow your YouTube channel, people that you've done nice things for, that you might not even ever know about. When you put the word out that, hey, you're inviting people onto your launch team, all these amazing people come out of the woodwork. All of these amazing people that you thought, oh, I didn't even think so-and-so remembered my name. Oh my gosh, look, here's a person I worked with 5 years ago. I thought she hated me. And there's some funny stories that 1 or 2 of those people did actually hate me, but that's okay. You reach out to everybody, and some people harbor all kinds of bad things, and that's okay. But there are people that, I wasn't surprised by the haters. I was surprised by the outpouring of love and support and connection, and people who just jumped into the fray so fast to be helpful and loving and kind in my moment of need. And I think authors have to drop the ego and drop the pride, because there are people who are just waiting for an opportunity to help you. And when you're launching a book, is a beautiful time to reap what you have sown.
So I want to come back to Leila, because her book, I was just looking, came out in mid-November of 2025, right before we did this last Kindle flash sale. And the Kindle flash sale officially was December 1st through 4th. But I had invited authors to lower their Kindle book price for 2 weeks before the 1st. and we weren't promoting that, but it was for authors to go to their own network and get reviews. And that was pretty much the window of time that Leila had from the book being published on November 15th until December 1st. So the results are pretty incredible. In that time frame, she has 39 ratings and 39 reviews. 39 people showed up to leave a rating and a review. Leila, how did you approach launching the book, focusing on reviews? Like, obviously leading into this kind of flash sale was part of it, but a lot of I flipped through the names. These are not all fellow authors. These are people from your world. So how did you realize that was important, and how did you make a plan to get those kinds of results?
When you mentioned a mailing list, I was thinking, what is that? And I have people that I known from speaking, but I did not ask any of them. And the reason I didn't, because I felt like it needs to be relational. I can't just not connect contact with anybody and then suddenly, hey, I wrote a book. Would you like? I didn't feel like that was right. So I didn't ask anybody. And what I did was I thought, what if I use my own advice that's in the book, where I'm going to be a cheapskate? I actually bought a copy of my own book, the author's copy, on Amazon, and they send it to me with "do not sell" across the book. I'm like, oh no, I just didn't want to pay the full price. Maybe I should put this on eBay just to prove that to see if it would sell anyway. But I shared a story of on LinkedIn. So I wrote in the newsletter that it's coming and the reason behind the book. And then I did post about the mistake that I did when I bought my own book and tried to be cheap. And it came with this thing that I can't even use and show. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and show this book that it's, I guess maybe it's a copy, the proof copy, which is the cheapest one. And then and it still came ripped on the back page. So I thought, you know, what if I share the stories of the book? What if I share a story about something from the chapter? And days ago, I thought, what if I share the chapter I didn't use? What are the things I haven't done? And a lot of the time in my mind, I think myself, I'm the master of mistakes. And there was a story in the book where I was supposed to go on a conference in New Jersey. And then 2 days before, a day before, the United canceled. So I reached out. I got the conference for free because I said I'm the master of free or cheap. And being able to, as an educator, in order to get the conference, I needed to give value. So I thought, well, if I do a workshop and then they let me in for free. So I was off the hook. But then the hotel, Embassy Suite, said, no, you have to pay for 3 days. I'm like, oh my God, I will never get reimbursed. And the guy was maddening. And he goes, madam, unfortunately, there's no way because it's 23. And I was getting frustrated. And I thought, you know, I was reading in Newsweek that week about New Jersey being the #1 place where people are unhappy. So I didn't even go there and I'm already unhappy. And just as it was so maddening and patronizing, the guy goes, well, you can come back another time. Like, what am I going to be doing in New Jersey? And then I said, what? I can come back another time? And I said, sure, I'll come back tomorrow. And I get this email confirmation that my reservation changed. I hang up. I call back again. And I said, well, I have 24 hours. I need to cancel the reservation. And I got my $1,000 back. And this is what the analogy about LinkedIn. So I would share the stories of how the algorithm works. When you writing a post, you know, you need to let it sit and breathe for 4 hours. But at the same time, you have about an hour where you need to respond to people because they don't want you to post and ghost. And I was sharing how I went from one follower for 1 year to 23,000 followers. What is it that you need to do? And everything I've done was because I made mistakes. And so I learned through the mistakes. So the book shares all these creative things that you can do, not only with social media, but in real life to deal with all these frustrating things.
The story about the New Jersey hotel is just indicative of why, you know, we want to work with humans, but it's machines that are actually behind the scenes doing the things. Once you know that, you can work with that. But Leila, you're having a great book is one thing. Getting reviews for a book is another. did you ask once? Did you ask over and over again? Like how did you inspire people to write reviews? And is she, by the way, David, she's about to tell us it's not that hard. Go ahead, Leila.
I didn't ask. I did not ask. I just shared. And I did say, hey, by the way, if it were me, I would, because it's 99 cents. This is buy it. So I would tell people to buy it. Like, oh, hurry up, because before it becomes 19, because I'm not going to buy my book at $19. So all the things, even the resources in the back, is how to get things for free and how to get visibility. What is it that you, I even give example of why stamp, where you can have a signature, but you can only have it for one account. So you can always get more accounts, another email address if you need more. So I was giving all the things. This is my mindset as an educator for 25 years or 26 years, teaching in the poor schools or high need schools, or like, well, Leila, you're teaching ESL, nobody cares, or word languages, there's no money. So I've seen how you have nothing and you need, I had a lifetime of yellow chalk, and in my mind is, how can I teach excellence? How can I, where I don't believe success should be a matter of geography. And I taught my 8th graders, and 1 year they raised $1 million. And that's the mindset. And they built a skating rink that is still in existence. So how can you do big things? And I thought, oh, then I'm the kind of person who speaks to mission-driven people who want to make an impact and work on being relational and then reciprocate. And so for
Leila,
me, it's about value. Yeah, I'm so
clearly
sorry.
people, no, it's fine. It's clear that people wanted to reciprocate. When you go to write your next book, which maybe you'll do because you have a lot to share, I hope that it comes just as easy to you the second time to get reviews. Susan's got a fantastic book, and I just want to give you context. Susan's very well known in the world of National Speakers Association, book publishing, 49 ratings, and 38 written reviews. Susan, Leila has one more review than you, and she's been at it for like 2 months.
I know. She's working at it. I didn't work at it.
That's the difference. It's the effort, it's the asking, it's the putting it out there.
Absolutely.
But when your book came out, this wasn't part of the plan, right? Like,
it wasn't part of the plan at all.
Isn't it interesting how it keeps changing and evolving? Like, what's important? How to focus your energy. And I want to ask you, Susan, about the Kindle flash sale as a marketing strategy, because that's how I'm thinking about it. And I do know there are some authors, the first time they sign up, that kind of go, oh, okay, I can list my book there. Sure, here's the money. And they think that's their job. They fill out a form, they're now done. And then I'm like, you do this. And I'm basically coaching them to really maximize this opportunity, which you came in, you probably were like, yeah, that all makes sense. But you could see how so many of them are like, the what? And then the second time they come through, they get 25 reviews. They network and connect with everyone. But how would you think of packaging the Kindle flash sale, where you're lowering a book to 99 cents for a period of time, as part of a larger strategy, whether it's related to a launch or probably years after the book has come out?
So I admire what you do with that. I think it's amazing. And I think there are many opportunities for authors. However, I really am very, I believe in a very different strategy personally. You know, if I think of my first book, Exhibiting at Trade Shows, Tips and Techniques for Success, where I sold 500,000 copies to one company. So my focus was very different there than the idea of how can I reduce, my book. So yes, that serves and works well. And I mean, it worked brilliantly for David, for Leila, and for all the other, 70, 80 other people who you had. I like to look at this strategy from the standpoint of, my book, when I wrote the Exhibiting at Trade Shows, was specifically for exhibitors at trade shows. And my plan was to find a company who complemented and had the same audience as me, but we weren't competitors. So when I found that company And we developed a relationship, and that relationship took a while, a bit like the whole, what you're doing. I mean, this doesn't happen overnight. This does take work. And Leila was saying too. But they saw the need for how they could use the book and use me for training, which I love to do. And that's why they ended up buying 500,000 copies of the book.
Yeah, when
They
you have
had
a really niche
distributors.
book.
I had a really niche book.
Yeah, but for not a really niche book, like a book like David's or Leila's that are, they have a focus, but the word entrepreneur is like still a pretty broad category.
It is. And when authors come to me with that, I would still invite them to look at how can we, find a vertical, a niche market where they can really look and develop themselves and become that go-to expert in their field. I mean, David's got a very specific audience that he's going after with his market eminence as well. So yes, and Leila, by the way, next time you go to a hotel looking for a free, offer them training programs for their staff. They'll give you a room for several nights for you to do that. So I did that, and it works. It works like magic.
That's amazing.
It is. It is.
I wouldn't have expected on this show.
Yeah, you again. You ask, and if you offer them something that they need, they'll be willing to give, in return. Yeah.
David, when you were on the show one-on-one, you shared a story about your big launch plans for your first book and the millions of emails that were sent out on your behalf, and the books that were sold, and the year you took to track down reviews for the book, because that wasn't the initial part of the plan, and all the bonus content you had curated. And that really was, at that time, that was like the best practice. That was like the thing you did if you had access to people with that big of a email lists. But you knew that wasn't what you wanted to do again. And we've been working together to get you reviews. And then I mentioned to you the Kindle flash sale timing. And you were like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing it. Like, to you, there was like an extension of this launch. So when did the book get published? And now the official launch is coming up in like a week in January, where we're going to like make a big deal about it. But you've been really focusing on this book. I don't want to say completely behind the scenes, because you've had unboxing videos and you've been sharing publicly about it on social media, but you have a core team of people, 300 plus people. But yeah, what was about this book that you thought, I'm going to not do this, like send emails to 250,000 people with 10 different partners? And I mean, like, the description of what you did felt like a tremendous effort. And I'm not going to say that this isn't like what you did decide to do, but it's very different in what it's like, how do you know that the market has shifted and the needs have shifted?
So the previous strategy, which was get a whole bunch of launch partners, some had 50,000 on their list, some had 20,000, some had 300,000, and arm them with a lot of content, and then choose a day, and that was launch day, and all of these partners combined put out over 1 million emails. At that time, I only had about 10,000 people on my email list. The 990,000 other emails came from other people. So number one, have people promote the book. Hopefully that leads to some book sales. Hopefully that leads to some people opting into my email list. Hopefully that leads to some people leaving reviews. Hopefully some of those reviews are good. I'm still not quite forgiving the person who left a 1-star review on Do It Marketing and said, I got this book from the library and I was very disappointed. So it's like, it's a library book, gave me a 1-star review. So there was no quarter that was unheard from. And it took, I'm going to say, so every time someone said something nice about the book, I would send an email or I would say to them in person, would you be wonderful enough to put a 5-star, 2-sentence, poetic, positive review on Amazon? And I had a standard email template. When someone emailed me, David, I read your book. It's amazing. Would you be wonderful enough to write a five-star, 2-sentence, poetic, positive Amazon review. I was literally doing this hand-to-hand combat, one at a time, week after week, month after month, year after year. That is the definition of slog. Hard, painful, slow slog towards an end result. When we totally flipped the script, Robbie, with this fourth book, and we said, let's devise a campaign where we get the reviews first. Do they have to opt into my list? They do not. They can, but they don't have to. Do they have to read the full book? No, can they skim? Can we give them some prompting questions to help stimulate their juices? So you have this, every friction point of someone leaving a review and talking nice things about your book, every friction point your process has removed. And so I now have more reviews. We're about 2 months in since the first iteration of the book was available, which was Kindle. We're 2 months in, and I have more reviews than my book from 2020, 6 years ago. I have more reviews than my book from 2023, which was 3 years ago. And I have, I don't quite, because over time, the Do It Marketing book amassed like 400 plus reviews, but I'm halfway to where that book is. And, just if you're doing the math, half of 13 years is 6.5 years. We've compressed 2 months into 6.5 years of doing it the hard way. So that's how my goals have evolved.
That's amazing. And it's hard. I think if something had, in some ways, what you did in 2013 worked.
Yes.
And so I guess what I want to call out is the ability to have a reflection point, that just because you did a thing and it worked and it got you some results that you were happy with isn't cause for just repeating that process without any reflection. Like, it's important for us to take in new information, which can be hard. I think for all of us, it can be hard. So I think it's pretty commendable that you changed tracks, because I've worked with a lot of authors, and I'll shout out Lois Kramer as an example. She's been very forthcoming about this. Lois Kramer, another beloved member of the National Speakers Association, I helped her with the launch of a second edition of her book. And she said for her first edition, her launch plan was to yell out the back door, "Hey, I wrote a book." And so you can see why going from I didn't really have a plan to maybe I should try something is different than I had a massive plan that involved all of these really big deal people, and my book went everywhere, but I still think there might be a different way. I feel like it's a different reflection point when you've had moderate or even excessive success, because by all metrics, that first book is amazing by all metrics. And I think that's something to know, is that strategies change. Susan, I've often said, I know that you're a publisher, but I always think of you as a marketing professional who publishes books, which is different than publishers who will kind of sort of help you market your book. They'll kind of sort of give you a one-pager to follow or something, you should do this little thing, change this thing on your LinkedIn. So, but it's constantly evolving. It's not just the mediums change, but the awareness. So reviews have always been important. I think our awareness of reviews has really changed. As we wrap up here, I would love each of you to share briefly one thing that you would share as advice for someone who is writing a book to help them grow their business. Leila, maybe something you've learned, maybe something you've already said. What would you share with someone who was trying to get the kind of success that you've had in these first few months?
If you think of the person you're writing it for me, I thought the educators. Because I'm an educator. It was easy for me to reach out to different educators and universities in the US and abroad about the book. And I got an invitation to speak in Austria and in Poland and do a book signing. So if you think about who you are writing and maintain that tone the entire time, because for me, sometimes I feel like, oh, but I can do somebody else. Oh, I can speak to no. I need to remember who I am. This educator background, and that's how you get the opportunity. And for me, since I love speaking on stages and I want to speak on international stages, that was a success. It doesn't matter the amount of stars. I loved this. I was really grateful. And each time I saw a circle, like, oh my God, I get excited. I was not expecting anything. I didn't ask. So I didn't think I merited to have any. But just reaching out to those clients or the people you wrote it for, it gives you a very compelling and a robust ask to more likely get what you're hoping for.
Brilliant. Susan, what would you share as advice for someone who's thinking about writing a book to grow their business? Oh, Susan, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. It's all about niche marketing, finding a niche and getting rich in that niche. I believe that you can sell more books to one company, one organization. Speaking, everybody in your audience needs to have a copy of your book. One of my clients just 300 books. He's speaking at a gig next week. So an extra few $1,000s in his pocket for that, and I believe that is the way to go as a strategy. So I leave that with your audience. Yeah.
By the way, all these notes are going to be we'll tally them and put them in the show notes. So David, how about you? What advice would you share?
I'm going to tell you, read Leila's book and use it as you're writing your book. Use Susan and her team to publish your book, and then use Robbie and his team to launch your book. That is the best advice that I have for all y'all. Go do that, and I think you'll have undeniable success.
And wonder why David isn't
David's,
yeah. David is like, I'm not going to mention my book, but David, this is why people like you so much.
People know where to find me.
How can people find you and follow your work, actually? I want to put those links in the show notes.
Yes, thank you. So the book Market Eminence has all kinds of free downloads, worksheets, resources, and training videos. You can get those for free, frankly, whether you've bought the book or not. And that's at marketeminence.com. So you can get the download. You can get all 3 versions of the book if you're so inclined. And then my main website that has all kinds of other resources and goodies is simply doitmarketing.com.
David, I bought your book very quickly, so I can access you mentioned free, so you really got my
Yes, free. Leila, it's free. Okay. It's totally free for Leila and for everyone when you go to marketeminence.com.
Amazing. Leila, how can people find you and follow your work?
I am very prominent on LinkedIn, Leila Kubesch, LinkedIn, and a little bit on Instagram, but also leilakubesch.com as in my website.
By the way, all these links are going to be in the show notes at bizbookpubhub.com. Susan, where can people find you and follow your work?
So best is my website is avivapubs.com, and you'll put that in the show notes. And there are several free resources on that list to help with the book marketing. And I'm also the host of Book Marketing Mentors podcast, and that's a great show to follow. And both David and Robbie have been guests several times on that show. And Leila, we've got to have you on too now.
That's awesome. So if you go to bizbookpubhub.com, you're going to find today's show notes as well as show notes for all the other past episodes. You'll see a curated directory of experts like myself and Susan who will support you through your author journey, writing, editing, publishing, launching, and marketing your book. We have free virtual networking events every single month. We've got a blog that's coming out, the Kindle flash sales, and much more. Just check all the author resources out at bizbookpubhub.com. Panel, thank you so much for this really great conversation. I loved what you all shared. Appreciate you joining us. Bye, all.